Our guest today is the Congresswoman from Illinois' 9th Congressional District. Prior to her election to Congress in 1998, she served for 8 years in the Illinois General Assembly. Our guest today is a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Her top priority in Congress is to provide universal health care coverage for all Americans. One more time. Her top priority in Congress is to provide universal health care coverage for all Americans. There we go. Our guest today graduated from the University of Illinois and lives in Evanston. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the City Club of Chicago, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. Jan? Have some fun up there.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you. I appreciate this invitation to be before this prestigious group and a group of so many friends. Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of like that in Washington right now, too. A very hospitable place for Chicagoans. It really is such a remarkable feeling to be able to go to the White House. I'm going again. This will be 3 times in 3 weeks. That's more than the last 8 years. And to see not only the president, no more Barack, it's all Mr. President, and Michelle, and Ram, and David Axelrod, and Valerie Jarrett, and my good friend Tina Chen, and on and on and on. Desiree Rogers, it's really incredible. And now, throughout the administration, we can pick up the phone, we Democrats anyway, and talk to people who now are going to return our calls and be responsive to an agenda that many of us have been waiting for a very long time. It was my pleasure during the campaign to be a national co-chair of the Obama for President campaign, and was able not only myself personally to travel to 17 states as a surrogate and made sure that I canvassed door to door in every place I went, which meant that I canvassed in 6 below and 106 degrees in Reno throughout the campaign, but also through my office and my political operation, able to literally send thousands of people with a lot of other help. I'm looking at people in this room who helped to board buses and go to Iowa and Wisconsin and Indiana. So many of us feel very invested in this campaign. In fact, I think there's a chronic, I hope it's a short-term illness right now. I call it phone bank deficit disorder. And there's a lot of people who knew every day what they wanted to do when they woke up and are now wondering. So, we're going to need some more campaigns for them to work on. And I'm talking also about issue campaigns, because the same array of opponents to getting universal health care, for example, are out there and working, or for a sane energy policy are out there and working. And so I think the call of the Obama campaign is really that we all need to stay involved, have his back, and provide the mobilized electorate and citizenry in order to move an agenda. Well, the president laid out a lot of challenges in his State of the Union address. Let me just name 3 of them. Obviously, the economy, where he said our economy is badly weakened, a consequence of greed and irresponsibility, but also our collective failure to make hard choices and prepare the nation for a new age, which is a daunting challenge. I'll talk more about the economic recovery package, how it's moving along in Congress, and how it might affect Illinois. Talked about how our nation is at war, and we're still at this moment, even though most Americans have put the war in Iraq behind them, spending $14 million an hour, think about our hour here, in Iraq. And we've lost 4,231 U.S. soldiers, and as of last Saturday, 14 since Barack Obama has been president. So we have to remember that the war goes on. JM, also, Nancy Pelosi appointed me to the Intelligence Committee last session, and we have hotspots briefings every week. And believe me, more than most of us think about the hotspots in this world. This is a very challenging and dangerous environment in which our new president has to begin to lead. And of course, he talked about less measurable but no less profound is a sapping of confidence across the land. But I really appreciated his remarks when he said we have to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. So we, in partnership with this president, have begun work already. And let me just say that the challenges for Illinois also are very great. According to Moody economist Mark Zandi, 203,600 jobs could be saved in Illinois according to the recovery plan that we passed in the House of Representatives as one of our first acts. Now, that's the bill that passed the House. And it passed by a pretty wide margin, but it was all Democrats and not a single Republican. And the problem with that, of course, is that sets us up now for a real battle in the Senate. The House, we can pass pretty much anything we want. That's not a threat. That's just the truth. And in the Senate, it's certainly a different. It's a very different story. Let me tell you the top 10 items that I took to the floor of the House as my favorites on the economic recovery plan. One is that it will save or create 4 million jobs. And I'll list some of those things as they impact Illinois a bit later. It provides a critical boost in Medicaid assistance to states so that budget shortfalls don't harm access to health care. The FMAP, the federal match, will be increased. Last year, with lower revenues and an increased number of uninsured, Illinois experienced a $1.5 billion shortfall and reduced payments to providers, which does reduce access, and cutting eligibility in other states. It's a serious problem. Number 3, it'll help those who have lost their jobs maintain health insurance. What this bill has in it is assistance to individuals with their COBRA premium. And that's, when they lose their job, they can stay on the health care plan, the group plan, but have to pay full amount themselves. This will pay for the COBRA premium, and it also gives states an option to expand Medicaid. 4, it extends unemployment insurance coverage through the end of the year and increases the benefit by $25 a week. And if you don't think $25 a week means something to families, believe me, it really can make a big difference. It increases funding for, number 5, for affordable housing and homelessness prevention funds. I know many of you are in the housing business in one way or another here, and this is very important. Number 6, it invests in renewable energy technologies and research, which, again, I think there are many people in this room who are concerned with creating green jobs as well as a greener environment. 7, it provides 100% increase in weatherization funding to make homes and businesses energy efficient. 8, it provides infrastructure and financial support to school districts. We're talking about millions of dollars coming to school districts to help improve schools, to help with technology in the schools, to improve the quality of classrooms, and just a better learning environment for thousands and thousands of students. 9, it increases the maximum Pell Grant to help more people go to college. 10, it will enact the Making Work pay tax credit for 95% of American workers, a credit worth up to $1,000. You know, there's been some criticism by some about not enough emphasis on tax breaks, too much emphasis on tax breaks, that they're not stimulative enough. But I think when we think about taxes, it's who are they targeted to, and our legislation in the House anyway, targeted to people who will actually take the money out of their pockets and spend it on education or in the marketplace. But there's a lot of other benefits, including restoring science to its rightful place, increasing funding for the National Institutes of Health, and research on global warming. Let me just give you a rundown on the big items that could impact Illinois. We're talking about $1 billion for highways and bridges, almost $900 million for education modernization, renovation, and repair, almost $3 billion for Medicaid, the supplemental nutrition assistance programs, food stamps. And let me say, you know, there's, again, some talk, I was watching the Sunday News about, are these social programs, is that really stimulating the economy? Shouldn't we do that separately? Barney Frank, I thought, gave a great defense on this kind of public spending. But the one thing I think he didn't talk enough about was that these things, in fact, are stimulative. Every dollar that goes to food stamps generates about $1.73 in the in economic activity in the economy. And the other thing, by the way, I felt that Barney Frank could have hit Jim DeMint with was the solution on the other side was really pretty much more of the same, which hasn't worked too well. There is about $2.7 billion. No, I said that for FMAP. Supplemental security income, additional payments. Oh, here, the other big one, Pell Grants. Almost $1 billion for increase in the amount of money that we'll spend to help our kids go to college. Steve, I know you're interested in mass transit. In the House bill, we added another $3 billion, making it $12 billion. Many of us still feel that's not sufficient for mass transit, but at least we were able to kick up that money a little bit more. But this is what I'm talking about just for Illinois. So with a new governor and with certainly major budget shortages, I think that we can see additional funding coming here, and we're going to have to work very closely with the state and local officials because the critical thing is getting this money out. And, you know, we talk about shovel-ready projects and getting it working immediately so that it does translate into jobs and into economic activity. I wanted to talk a little bit about undoing some of the things that we felt needed to be undone and how quickly the Obama administration has moved to do that. What we found in his first executive order, he committed our nation to respecting international law and just general morality by closing Guantanamo Bay and rejecting torture and military commissions. I've been to Guantanamo Bay a couple of times, and while Dick Cheney called it, you know, very clean and state-of-the-art, that may be true, but these are very clean cages, and in some cases, very clean solitary confinement cells, and I wasn't able to see where all the interrogations that we've heard so much about actually took place. So as a member of the Intelligence Committee, I'm really happy about that. The other thing he did right away was to change the global gag rule. This is about family planning money going to international organizations. And I've seen women in India and Bangladesh, for example, standing in line with their children, waiting for some kind of assistance with their to control their birth rate, to not bring another child into poverty. This is not abortion money. But it can go to organizations now who, with other funds, have the audacity even to refer people to places that do abortion services. So many of us, and I'm now also the chair of the co-chair of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus in the House, we're very happy to see that. There were a number of things on organized labor that he also reversed. Barack Obama made a statement that I really appreciate. He says, I do not view the labor movement as part of the problem. To me, it's part of the solution. And a number of the executive orders that he passed had to do with evening the playing field between employers and employees, informing workers when they're allowed to organize, the use of various signs. There were small things, but I think symbolic things. And then on the environment, one of the things that he did, he reversed President Bush's policy that forbid California and other states from implementing higher fuel economy standards and tailpipe emissions reductions on new cars. He also instructed Lisa Jackson, the incoming administrator of the EPA, to review all of President Bush's executive orders pertaining to the environment. So there's still a job, I believe, to look very carefully through some of the policies that were done through executive order and make decisions about what are the priorities for changing them. And obviously, we have a whole lot more to do. I do hope that we're going to move ahead on health care. The president said in his State of the Union address that he challenged people who thought our system cannot tolerate too many big plans to realize that we have to do a number of things at once. And they do have to do with the economy, and they're all interrelated. And so certainly as a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, we're going to be moving quickly on health care issues. I expect that we will see that we'll have a comprehensive health care reform agenda. That was certainly part of the president's campaign, and I think that we're going to see it before too long in our Energy and Commerce Committee. On the environment, what we're going to see are many more things that are going to be bold. We're going to, I believe that we're going to see a cap and trade bill that would limit the amount of carbon emissions in the atmosphere that will be introduced. I was one of 35 people who helped form a sustainable energy and environment coalition in the Congress, and working with Henry Waxman, who is the new chairman of Energy and Commerce. That was painful at the beginning of the session. Well, it was. I mean, you know, John Dingell is the dean of the Congress. He's been there longer than anybody and has been chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee. But many of us on that committee felt that these next 2 years are so important that we needed to have someone who would take leadership on issues of the environment, of global warming, and move forward. And so Henry Waxman now chairs that committee, and I believe that a cap and trade program is a practical approach to fighting climate change by creating a marketplace to steadily reduce carbon dioxide emissions economy-wide in a very cost-effective way. So that'll be challenging. It'll be, I think, a very, very interesting debate that we'll find. So our big week this week is going to be, our big issue this week is definitely going to be the economic recovery package. There's also discussion about what to do about the toxic assets, what to do about injecting liquidity into the banks so that they're beginning to lend more money. Every day I'm hearing from businesses in my district and from people around the country who are saying, take Hart Marks, for instance, the largest domestic manufacturer of clothing, 128-year-old business. that employs 1,000 people right here in the Chicago area is now going into Chapter 11. They will be able to stay operating, but this has been a profitable company. Even Republic Windows, that many of us remember when the workers sat down, they were making Energy Star windows, exactly the kinds of things that we need in our economy, these energy efficient windows. How are we going to make it more possible for the banks to be lending? I mean, I think what you're going to see is probably some purchase of toxic assets, at least Geithner is talking about there. There may be more injection of capital, but I want to assure everybody that we are going to make sure that that is accompanied by transparency, by oversight, and there will be increased regulation that goes with that. Because the American people are really sick and tired of seeing all these billions of dollars going to institutions that then buy one another, who have you heard the president himself talk about the $18 billion in executive compensation bonuses that went out. So that's going to be one track, I think, that we're going to still need to be working on, the whole TARP issue. I loved Claire McCaskill. I thought when she said, maybe they're living on a different planet, I think that she was just right. But in terms of the stimulus package, which is the other piece of that, the Senate is beginning debate on that right now, today, and hopefully we're gonna see some action. I don't know the areas of compromise. It'll be the balance between the money that goes into spending programs, the money that goes into tax relief. The substitute that was offered in the House by the Republicans was 100% tax cuts. We have been there, we have done that, it hasn't worked, and we hope that what does finally emerge from the Senate is something that is certainly more balanced and in fact will stimulate our economy. So it's a tremendous joy to be there. How many people went to the inauguration? How many people didn't get in? Oh, my purple ticket holders are, still suffering. I'd show you my pictures, but then you'd really be convinced that I'm a very shallow person, because I have a lot of celebrity pictures, people I ran into that I'm snapping. In addition to that incredible crowd, let me just tell you one story. I asked the president. I said, "What did you think when you looked out and you saw all of those people there?" And he said, actually, the most moving moment for me was, and then Ted Kennedy had this seizure in the lunch, and he wasn't able to finish the sentence. And I, in addition to being so concerned about Ted Kennedy, who, by the way, is really, given his situation, doing great, I was able to see him later. I said, "What? Finish your sentence." And he said, you noticed there was this red bunting, and then people walked out onto the platform, especially if you were watching it on TV, you could see that. Well, it was almost like walking through a tunnel that was very dark. And so he stood at the mouth of that tunnel, he said, and looked out onto all of these people. And there's a photo of him, I believe it was in the Tribune, where his eyes are actually closed, contemplating that extraordinary vision. And he was incredibly moved by the ceremony, incredibly moved by the challenge, and let's hope that the extraordinary vision that he saw that day will be reflected in his administration. Thank you very much.
Before we, Janu, the mother load. Before we go, because this is the City Club, and we recognize people for diversity, let me introduce a Chicago Republican. Joe Morris, stand up. Thank you, Alderman.
Joe, there may be a third Republican in the cabinet pretty soon. You never know. Oh, okay.
Like Kelly is. Okay, well, yeah, who wants to be Secretary of Commerce? You're right, Joe. Because this also is the City Club, the first question, Congresswoman Schakowsky, is, we had this from 3 people. Have you endorsed anybody in the 5th Congressional District?
Actually, I haven't endorsed in the 5th Congressional District. I understand there was a debate yesterday of 11 candidates, and that wasn't all the Democrats. Then there's the Republicans as well. I mean, there are a number of really, really excellent candidates in that race, so the answer is no.
Okay, here we go. So always start off with a constituent. Bob Reamer, proud voter in the 9th. Bob's back there. You are a well-regarded supporter of H.R. 676, single-payer health plan. What are the prospects for passage now?
The prospects of passage of 676 are 0, Bob, right now. And that's not a flip kind of statement. Here's where we're at, I think, with health care. If we look at the President's plan, what it does is offer people a choice of keeping their private plan, be it employer-provided or whatever kind of private health insurance, or there will be a public plan, which will be a Medicare-like plan that will be an option. The battle in the shorter term will be keeping the public plan option in the legislation, which will be a mighty fight in and of itself to all of those who support a single-payer option. And so while I don't discourage anybody from keeping out their vision of what kind of health reform they want, or 676, and actually I've been a co-sponsor of that, the reality is, I think, keeping a public piece. For example, I just, along with Dick Durbin, introduced legislation that would, under Medicare, create a Medicare prescription drug benefit, as opposed to the other private Part Ds. These are difficult fights to create these kinds of public options. There'll be opposition. So I think that we'll be pleased if we get there.
We now have enough questions. You're not catching a plane, are you?
No?
Good. From the
Tomorrow, though, I am.
We may be here. From the aforementioned Dan Miller, Heartland Institute. You mentioned this in your talk. California legislature, according to Dan Miller, discovered state's cap and trade carbon regulation program has raised energy prices and reduced economic activity. Do you support the national cap and trade?
I do support a national cap and trade. You know, we're in the meantime doing research about where's Dan? What the California experience is, and there will be certainly a vigorous debate about how we move forward and what the best mechanism is. I'm sure there will be those who will introduce a straight carbon tax, and that'll be part of the discussion. But I defer to the experts who still are believing that there were some special circumstances in California that I can't even tell you what they are, and that a national cap and trade plan would work. I mean, we're approaching this though, and Chairman Waxman is bringing in all kinds of experts to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. But my understanding of cap and trade is that it's that it is the best way for us to go. But we'll see how that is. We're looking at California. We're aware of the problem or the issue.
For those of you, cap and trade has nothing to do with the White Sox. Okay. Little humor.
Do you know? Does everybody know? Okay.
You better tell them.
You know, there would be a cap on the amount of emissions that, let's say, a power plant could emit. If they go under that amount, they could actually the margin of that could be auctioned off, could be sold. So there would be a an advantage to that company to reduce its emissions, because they could actually sell the amount that they were under what their cap was. That was clumsy, but
That would be a hell of a political science question. Let me
very
okay.
clumsy, but-
This is from board member Ed Mazer, who seems to know you pretty well. Senator Pelosi's appointment of Congressman Jan to the Intelligence Committee was a smart move to recognize a Rogers School graduate. Ed, raise your hand there. Yes, yes.
Rogers School,
Okay.
the
now,
center of the universe.
Okay, now the question. That was a little buttering up.
Okay.
How do you respond to the Republican comments that much of the economic recovery plan will not go into effect for 2 or 3 years?
Well, actually, we heard from Chairman Oberstar, chairman of the Transportation Committee, make pretty passionate statements on the floor of the House about how quickly these projects could get underway. We've heard from a lot of governors, we've heard from mayors, we've heard from so many people so many leaders who have talked about those projects that could be implemented immediately. The projections are that 75% of the money actually will be out and used in the stimulus projects in the first 18 months. That's going to be absolutely the crux of the oversight, is making sure that that money gets out and gets put to use right away. The term shovel-ready, but of course we're not just talking about construction projects, we're talking about others, but that's really the term.
50th Ward, just so you all know. This is Chicago. Former Alderman Nataris, is it advisable to pass legislation putting a lid on the amount of interest banks can charge for mortgages and credit card companies can charge?
You know, Illinois once had a usury law where you couldn't go above that. That has been removed. Actually, what we're doing now is looking for mortgage modifications. Probably a lot of you knew, but I didn't know until today. For example, someone came to me who's having a hard time paying his mortgage. And it's backed by Fannie Mae, who has a rule that says that unless you are 90 days overdue, then you are not eligible for the modification program from Fannie Mae, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He said to the person who told him that, does that mean that I should not pay my mortgage for the next 3 months if I want to get any kind of assistance at all? And she said, well, I don't say that I said that. So we're dealing, rather than with interest rates, which have been dropping for mortgages, I'm trying to get a refinancing right now on my house. We have to, never mind. I'll sound defensive. Anyway, we also want to allow bankruptcy judges to do modifications. That's legislation that's still on the table. And a bunch of the stimulus package is going to deal actually with directly helping homeowners, but it hasn't been with interest rates, which, as I say, have been through the market dropping. Now, credit cards, that's a whole other area, and the credit crisis, the credit card crisis that could be emerging is going to be another challenge. We'll see what we have to do with that.
Moving on. Gene Romas, where are you, Gene? Raise your hand. Back of the room.
Do you see a hand?
Yes, there. Works with the Cook County State's Attorney. Next time, see me, we'll move you up. If you're from the U.S. Attorney's Office, you can speak. With recession, the Department of Justice and Homeland Security funding has been reduced. Will the economic stimulus package restore some of this money? Well,
I don't know the answer to that, actually. If there's going to be money you're talking about for staffing and that kind of. I don't know that. I'll have to find that out. I don't know.
This is from Board Member Joyce Saxon. What in the House bill could be eliminated as an earmark? Oh, obviously nothing, right?
Well, I want to tell you something about earmarks. You know, I don't know, and the bill will be scrubbed, and I'm sure there's a number of things that will be pointed out. You know, I have always sent out a press release about every cent that I've brought back to the district because I think they are worthy projects. But you know, obviously, I think one of the processes that's going to go on right now in the Senate is looking carefully at all the individual expenditures. The National Mall, they called it resodding, but it was improvement, was taken out of the bill because it became a focal point for the Republicans. Well, I want to tell you, we just had the most remarkable historic event on the mall of the U.S. Capitol, where 1.8 million people gathered to celebrate the inauguration. It is a national treasure. The improvement of the mall is an infrastructure project. It would actually create jobs, and a lot of work needs to be done. So it's all, in many ways, it's subjective and in the eye of the beholder. But I think it has to meet the criteria of actually creating some jobs and being of public value. But again, that is a subjective issue. I'm sure people will disagree on how the money was spent. But it will be spent in partnership in many ways with the state and local governments who will help to make those decisions. At the end of the day, I'm sure everyone will find some money being spent on something that they do approve of and others that they don't. I actually don't know of all of the individual items that are in the bill. I can, you know, I've got my papers with me that I could go through. I'm sure there are things. Do you have? No, that's true. No, I thought maybe you had. No, I thought maybe you had something in mind. Yeah. Well, let me just say one other thing. At the end of the day, too, it's not going to be voted on item by item by item. We're going to vote for this package, and as I say, there'll be pluses and minuses for each individual.
Okay. We have a lot of questions here. Grant Linsky. Be careful of this question. Where are you? I'm sure you're by the door. He's ready to move. Maybe the question of the day. Why does the federal government mandate that state and local governments do a better job of fiscal responsibility instead of blaming the private sector only? Abuse goes both ways. 25 words or less.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking about, but I think that the almost religious belief in markets being unfettered as being self-regulating and delivering the goods for the American people has been the dominant ethic when it comes to economics over the last several years, and probably more than 8 years, actually. And I think what we're seeing now is that there are a number of things that absolutely need good oversight and good regulation and good control, and that there is a role for government. And that actually now, it's a change in public opinion in surveys, is a belief of most people. The president has said over and over again, the government can't do everything, but the government can do some things. And I think a lot of the criticism that you've seen of late has to do with extreme excesses that have taken place. I don't think it's a repudiation of our free market system. It's how can the government help to make it better, work in partnership with the private sector to make it all work for the majority of people, not just for the, for a top few. And even then, not so much anymore. I mean, everybody's seen their portfolios diminish. And so I don't think it's who. In fact, let me just quote you one thing that the president said. The question we ask today is not whether our government is too big or too small, but whether it works. And I think that's the question of the day, you're right, Paul, that we're struggling with. To what extent does government intervene to help things work?
Jeffrey Collard from the Haymarket Center. Every dollar spent on substance abuse, abuse treatment, raise.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read them. Legibility. We need more lights. This eye thing is still working.
Every dollar spent on substance abuse treatment saves $7 in other system costs. Why was there no dollars for SAMHSA, that's the Substance Abuse Administration, in the stimulus? And will substance abuse treatment be part of health care reform?
I'll answer that. Oh, no.
Yeah, and you answer. Okay, that's fair. Substance abuse, mental health issues, those will definitely be part of an overall health care package. I couldn't agree more that this is something definitely that saves money, and I think that is really part of the answer, that it's not going to be in the stimulus package, but that it will definitely be part of a comprehensive health care package where there are a number of preventive things, of treatment things that ultimately save a lot of money. We're going to be looking for those.
Thank you for the help there. This is from Ray Asher. Any criticism of President Obama's comments on Al Jazeera interview?
Al Arabiya. It was not Al Jazeera.
I want to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah. And, that actually considered a more mainstream communicator to the Muslim world, Al Arabiya. I was very proud of him for doing that. I thought this notion that he set out, that we will reach out a hand of friendship to those who unclench their fist and want to end terror and establish human rights. I think the reversal of this attitude that is felt, to the extent that we can reverse this attitude that's felt in the whole Muslim world by all those who believe in Islam, the safer we are as a nation. And so I was proud of him for doing it.
Two more questions. Hold on to your seats, please. From Bob Manwith. Manwith, where are you? There he is, an old longtime City Club member. Should the stimulus portion, the 819 billion, be separated from long-standing Democratic proposals? In other words, are there Democratic proposals that have been thrown into the stimulus package, or should the stimulus package stand alone?
Well, we actually have taken out one that was criticized that I felt was important. A lot of the women's organizations felt was important, but it was not believed to be central to economic stimulus, something that does save about $700 million across the country, and that was money, an expansion of Medicaid for family planning and other women's health issues. And really pretty much like the substance abuse piece, that was taken out of the bill. That was the one that the Republicans focused on as irrelevant to economic stimulus, and the president himself felt that it should be taken out. Again, I think this will be the focus of the Senate debate.
Okay, and to close, because this is a City Club and just shows you how tough it is to be a congresswoman or anywhere working in government, I'm sure you have a snappy answer for this one. This comes from Richard Groh. Every year there are instances of people being held on airplanes, on the tarmac, for more than 8 hours, without food, water, and a working toilet. Why can't Congress pass a law to prevent this?
We should. Let's go out of this room and fight for toilets. No. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. I agree. I'll take up that issue as my very own. Actually, I thought someone was going to ask about people who have gotten their names on lists and are detained at airports, and that happens to a lot of people in my very diverse district. And I was going to turn it over to Leslie Combs, my district director, whoever that happened to, take it to Leslie. But no, now I have a new mission, and I thank the City Club for that.
Thank you. Jim, we got some prizes for you. Jan, we have a one-year membership in the City Club for you. We have the history of the City Club book, and we have a mug. Unfortunately, it's not here. We are adjourned.
Thank you.